Hello everybody and welcome to chapter 20 of the book of Shemot as we continue to travel through Tanach. Chapter 20 has 23 verses and it starts in the Koren Sachs Chumash on page 498 and 499. Chapter 20 is the moment everything has been building towards, Matan Torah, the giving of the Torah at Mount Sinai, Har Sinai. Hashem speaks directly to the entire nation and gives the Aseret Hadibrot, which we loosely, colloquially translate as the 10 Commandments, but as we will see shortly, there are actually more than 10 commandments. The Aseret HaDibros, the Aseret HaDibrot, instead translates more accurately as the 10 sayings, the 10 statements, because these are not just individual laws, but the foundational principles of the covenant between Hashem and the Jewish people. There is so much that we can delve into as we try to tackle this chapter. And so if you find yourself with a whole long list of questions, that's exactly where we want to be. One of the first things to mention is that the experience is overwhelming for the Israelites. The people see the thunder, they hear the sounds, and they recoil in fear, asking Moshe to act as an intermediary. There are so many opinions as to what this experience must have been like. One of the common understandings is that at first, when Hashem revealed the Aseret HaDibros, He revealed them all in one go. The Israelites heard every single part of what we're about to read in one instant. Then as he tries to say these things over to the Israelites sequentially, we are taught that the experience was so body and soul shattering that after 2 commandments, they just couldn't take it anymore. And that's when they had to ask Moshe to say the rest for Hashem instead. Our rabbis explain that the 10 commandments are not random. They are carefully structured in a descending order of severity. They move from the most fundamental ideas about Hashem all the way down to the most subtle human behaviors. The first 5 are commonly referred to as the mitzvot bein adam lemakom, the mitzvot that define our relationship with Hashem, and the second set refer to mitzvot bein adam lechavero, commandments which exist interpersonally between one person and another. And they begin at the very top. I am Hashem your God. This is the foundation of everything. Belief in a creator. To deny this is to reject the entire system. Number 2, you shall have no other gods. Here a person may believe in Hashem, but also gives power to something else which weakens that relationship. Number 3, not taking Hashem's name in vain. This is where a person is not denying Hashem's existence, but is disrespecting him. Number 4, we have the mitzvah of Shabbat, the weekly declaration that Hashem created the world, and to violate Shabbat is to undermine that message, even if indirectly. Next we have honoring parents. Parents don't create the world, but they do create us. They are partners with Hashem in our existence, and so their honor reflects His. Number 6, moving into the mitzvot that exist in our relationships with other people, the focus shifts again in descending order. Do not murder. This is the most severe, destroying a human being who is created in the image of Hashem. Do not commit adultery, which damages the closest human relationship, the bond of marriage that completes a person. Do not steal. Do not kidnap. This is no longer about the person themselves, but their property. Number 9, the prohibition of false testimony. This doesn't directly take anything, but it manipulates reality through words. And finally, do not covet, the most subtle of all, as it exists only in the heart, without action or even speech. The Torah is not only concerned with what we do, but with what we say, what we believe, and even what we feel. It's the complete vision of what it means to be a human being living with awareness of Hashem. Now, I mentioned before that it's inaccurate to refer to this as the 10 commandments. And that's because actually if you see the number of mitzvot brought in the Sefer HaChinuch, you will see that there are actually 14 mitzvot that are listed. But they are covered by these 10 statements, these 10 categories. And actually in the whole of chapter 20 here, there are 17 mitzvot. There are 3 positive mitzvot, and there are 14 negative mitzvot. We have the commandment of belief in Hashem, the commandment to not believe in any god besides Hashem alone, to not make a statue, to not bow down to idolatry, to not worship idolatry in the way in which it's meant to be worshipped, to not swear in vain, the commandment to sanctify Shabbat with words, and the commandment to not do work, melacha, on Shabbat. We have the commandment to honor one's parents, and then the negative mitzvot that we see in the second half of the Ten Commandments, to not kill the innocent, to not reveal the nakedness of a man's wife, or in other words, adultery, to not steal a soul of Israel, and that's because lo tignov, as we will see, is actually a reference to kidnapping, to not testify falsely, to not covet. And then once we're clear of the Aseres HaDibros, the last part of our chapter, and in fact the end of Parashas Yisro, will bring 3 further mitzvot. Number 1, not to make the form of a man, even for decoration. Number 2, to not build the altar, the Mizbeach, with hewn, carved out stones. And number 3, to not take steps, or to not make steps on the Mizbeach, on the altar. So we've got all of that to look forward to in chapter 20. And so with that lengthy introduction in mind, let us turn now to chapter 20, verse 1. Vaydaber Elohim, and Hashem spoke, Es kol hadvarim ha'ele lemor, all of these words saying. And our rabbis pick up on the fact that this first verse, Vaydaber Elokim, it is the name of Hashem Elokim, who is delivering the Aseres HaDibros, and not the name of Hashem spelt with a Yud and a Hey and a Vav and a Hey. And our rabbis point out because this name, Elohim, represents Midas Hadin, the aspect of Hashem's character that represents strict judgment. And this implies that the Aseres HaDibros are obligatory and are not designed to be optional. And our rabbis point out that the reason why the verse says Kol Hadvarim Ha'ele, all of these words, is because at first Hashem said all of the Aseres HaDibros simultaneously, and then only afterwards were they said sequentially. Verse 2, Anochi Adonai Elohecha, I am Hashem, your God, Asher Hotzeisicha, who brought you out, Me'eretz Mitzrayim, from the land of Egypt, Mebeis Avadim, out of the house of slavery. Verse 3, Lo Yihiyeh Lecha Elohim Acherim Al Panai, have no other gods than me. Lo Saseh Lecha Fesel, do not make for yourself any carved image, V'chol Tumunah, or any likeness. Asher b'shamayim imal, of any creature in the heavens above, v'asher ba'aretz mitachas, or the earth below, v'asher b'mayim mitachas la'aretz, or the water beneath the earth. Lo sishtachaveh lahem v'lo sa'avdem, do not bow down to them and do not worship them. Ki anochi Adonai Elohecha, for I am Hashem your God, El Kano, a jealous God, a God who demands absolute loyalty. Poked avon avos al banim al shileshim va'al ribayim lesonai. I hold the descendants to account for the sins of the fathers to the 3rd and 4th generation for those who hate me. Va'oseh chesed la'alafim, but I show kindness for thousands of generations, le'ohavai, for those who love me, u'l'shomrei mitzvosai, and for those who keep and observe my commandments. Verse 7, Lo sisa es shem Adonai Elohecha lashav. Do not speak the name of Hashem your God in vain. Ki lo yinakeh Adonai, for Hashem will not absolve anyone, es asher yisa es shmo lashav, who speaks his name in vain. Verse 8, Zachor es yom HaShabbos l'kadosho. Remember Shabbat, the Sabbath day, to keep it holy. And here, as we can see, this mitzvah starts with the word Zachor, and when we have a repeat of the Aseres HaDibros later in the book of Devarim, we will see that it starts with the word Shamor. There are 2 different mitzvot. There's a mitzvah of Zachor, to remember Shabbat, to keep it holy, and to observe Shabbat, to keep it holy. There's lots more that we can say on that, but in the interest of continuing through our chapter, we will continue now. Sheshes yamim tavod, for 6 days you shall work, va'asisa kol malachtecha, and carry out all your labors. V'yom hashvi'i, and on the 7th day, Shabbos l'Adonai Elohecha. It is Shabbat for Hashem your God. Lo saseh malacha, you shall not do any work. Ata, that's you, uvincha, your son, uvitecha, your daughter, avdecha, your male servant, va'amasacha, your female servant, uvehemtecha, your animal. Even your animals aren't allowed to do melacha, to do work for you on Shabbos. V'gercha asher b'sharecha, or the convert, the migrant within your gates. Ki sheshes yamim asa Adonai es hashamayim ve'es haaretz. For in 6 days Hashem made heaven and earth, es hayam ve'es kol asher bam, the sea and all that they contain, va'yanach bayom hashvi, and he rested on the 7th day. Al kain, therefore, beirach Adonai es yom hashabbos va'yikadashehu. Therefore Hashem blessed the Shabbos day and made it holy. Verse 12, Kabed es avicha ve'esimecha, honor your father and mother, leman ya'arichun yamecha al hadama, so that you will live long in the land, asher Adonai Elohecha nosen lach, that Hashem your God is giving you. So that's the first 5 of our Aseret HaDibros, and then we continue. Lo tirtzach, you shall not murder, do not murder. Lo tinaf, do not commit adultery. Lo tignov, do not steal, which in this context refers to kidnapping. Lo saneh v'reacha ed shaker, do not bear false testimony against your neighbor. Lo sachmod beis reacha, do not covet or crave your neighbor's house. Lo sachmod eshes reacha, do not covet or crave your fellow's wife. Va'avdo, or his male servant. Va'amaso, or his female servant. V'shoro, his ox. V'chamaro, his donkey. V'chol asher lereacha, or anything else that is your neighbor's. And here what we are prohibiting is the thoughts that people have of wishing that what somebody else has, they have for themselves. That the person who has these things should be deprived of them, and instead you should be the worthy recipient of them. This is different to the feeling that a person has when you see your neighbor's car and you say, oh, I wish I could have the same car, or a neighbor's house. Oh, I wish I could have a house as nice as his. That's not what is being covered here in the Aseret HaDibros. Here we're talking about where you look at things that your friend or another person owns or has in their life, and you say, he should not have that. I should have that. Verse 15, V'chol ha'am ro'im es hakalos. The entire people saw the thunder, saw the sounds, V'es halapidim, and the lightning, the flames, V'es kol ha'shofar, and the sound of the ram's horn, V'es hahar ashen, and the smoke-covered mountain, Vayar ha'am, and the people saw, Vayanu, and they shook, they trembled, Vayamdu merachok, and they stood at a distance. Verse 16, Vayomer el Moshe, and they said to Moshe, Daber ata imanu v'nishma'a, you speak to us, and we will listen. Va'al yidaber imanu Elohim penamus, but let not Hashem say any more to us, or we will die. They just couldn't take the intensity of the revelation of having Hashem address them in such a direct manner. Verse 17, Vayomer Moshe el ha'am, and Moshe said to the people, Al tira'u, do not be afraid, ki la'varvun nasos eschem ba ha'Elohim, for Hashem has come in order to elevate you. Uva'avur tihiyeh yirasah pneichem levilti secheta'u, and so that the awe of Hashem will be with you always, keeping you from sin. Verse 18, Vayamod ha'am erachok, but the people remained at a distance. Moshe nigash el ha'arafel, while Moshe approached the thick darkness, Asher Sham ha'Elohim, where Hashem was. Verse 19, Vayomer Adonai el Moshe, and Hashem said to Moshe, Kosomar al bnei Yisrael, this is what you shall tell the children of Israel. Atem ra'isen, you have seen, ki min hashamayim dibarti imachem, that I have spoken to you from heaven. Verse 20, Lo sasuniti, you shall have no others alongside me. Elohei chesef, gods of silver, ve'elohei zahav, gods of gold, Lo sasu lachem, you shall not make for yourselves. Verse 21, Mizbach adama ta'aseli, make for me an altar of earth, v'zovachta alav, and slaughter on it, es olosecha, your burnt offerings, which are sacrifices that would be wholly consumed by the fires of the altar, ve'es shlamecha, and your peace offerings, es tsonecha, your sheep, ve'es bekarecha, and your cattle, b'chol makom asher azkir es shemi, wherever I permit my name to be mentioned, avo elecha, I will come to you, uverachticha, and bless you. Verse 22, V'mizbach avanim ta'aseli, and if you make me an altar of stones, lo sivne eshen gazis, do not build it of hewn stone, meaning stone which has been carved out. Ki charbacha heinafta aleha v'tchalaleha, for in wielding a sword upon it, you profane it. In other words, what this verse is teaching us is that the metal which is used to make sharp objects that can be used for murderous purposes, you should not use such tools to be able to cut out the stones that you would then use to build the altar. We actually see some extensions of this. There is an idea that when one is cutting down tzitzit strings, that they shouldn't use a metal blade to do so. And there are some other instances where there is a caution around using metal blades because of these same concerns. When something can be used as a sharp object for a bad purpose, it can therefore no longer be used for a holy purpose, which is why Hashem has this rule of not carving out the stones to be able to build a Mizbeach. And finally, verse 23, V'lo sa'aleh v'ma'alos al mizbechi. Do not ascend my altar on steps. Do not install steps to be able to go up to the Mizbeach, to the altar. Instead, they would have had a ramp that people would walk up. Asher lo sigaleh ervasecha alav. So that your nakedness will not be exposed upon it. And this is the origin of the rule for Kohanim, for the priests, that they should not take large strides when walking up the Mizbeach, because on the one hand it's considered immodest, and on the other hand because there was a lesson to be learned to not take arrogant, egotistical steps, but rather to walk in a more humble, measured and dignified way of walking. And that brings us to the end of chapter 20. As I said, there I'm sure will be so many more things to learn about, so many more things to ask about. Please God, we'll get to those at another occasion. But for now, we conclude Parshas Yisro, and in chapter 21, we will start Parshas Mishpatim, which contains many, many mitzvot. The idea being that now that we have this Torah, now that we have these rules, we now have to learn more about how to actually apply it to our daily lives. So I look forward to learning that chapter with you. In the meantime, have a wonderful and meaningful day.